The sound of screeching tires tore through the quiet morning, and in that instant, a brand new car that had only touched the road for the first time just hours ago was struck hard from the side, leaving the man inside gripping the wheel with wide eyes, his heart pounding like a drum against his chest, and his mind frozen between fear and disbelief. Tell us where you're watching from, we'd truly love to know. And if there was a moment in this story that touched your soul, please share it with us in the comments. It would mean the world to us to hear your heart. The man behind the wheel was not just any driver. He was a middle-class doctor who had worked endless nights saving lives, until at last he had gathered enough to buy his first new car. Today was meant to be his proudest journey, an 8-hour drive from Los Angeles to San Francisco, but fate had already painted the road with shadows. The car that had struck him sped away, leaving him shaken, yet he checked himself and whispered that he was fine. He took a deep breath and continued his journey, but the road had already shown him it would not be kind. Only an hour later, he saw a family stranded on the shoulder, a woman waving desperately. With a sick child in her arms, the doctor stopped without hesitation, opening the door of his new car despite the fresh scratches, and offered them a ride to the nearest hospital. As they rushed through the highway, the woman's tears fell freely, and her trembling voice kept thanking him while the child struggled for breath. He drove faster than his heart could bear, and when they reached the hospital, the staff rushed the child inside. He did not wait for gratitude. He simply watched the boy being carried away, and then quietly stepped back into his car. His journey resumed, but his mind was no longer on the shine of his vehicle. It was on the fragile thread of human life. The miles stretched ahead, and the city of San Francisco felt impossibly far. The road was quiet, but his soul was unsettled. Then, as he merged back into the highway, a sudden flash appeared in his mirror. A biker was swerving wildly, and in a single reckless second the machine crashed against the side of his car, throwing the rider to the ground. The doctor slammed the brakes and jumped out, his heart hammering louder than the roaring engines around him. He saw the biker lying still on the pavement, the motorcycle twisted and broken. The doctor dropped to his knees beside the stranger, forgetting his own car. His only thought was whether this man still breathed. He checked his pulse and felt the faint beat of life. The biker slowly opened his eyes in pain. His helmet was cracked, his clothes torn. The doctor whispered to stay calm and began examining his injuries with steady hands. The man groaned and tried to rise, but his body failed. The doctor reassured him that help was near. He waved down another driver and asked them to call for an ambulance. Within minutes, the sirens echoed through the highway, and the biker was lifted onto a stretcher. The doctor stood there covered in dust, his new car scraped and dented, but his spirit steady. The paramedics nodded at him with gratitude before speeding away with their patient. The doctor returned to his car, but as he sat behind the wheel, he noticed his hands trembling. He breathed deeply and whispered that life mattered more than steel. He started driving again, but the road seemed heavier than before. Shadows followed him on every turn. As the hours passed, he thought of the people he had met today, the child fighting to breathe, and the biker clinging to survival. It felt as if the road had chosen him for trials, yet he kept moving forward, because his duty was not just in hospitals, it was everywhere. Suddenly, near a curve, a luxury car swerved into his lane and rammed into his rear. His body jolted forward as metal screeched. He pulled over, his heart sinking at the thought of yet another disaster. The driver of the other car stepped out, an older, wealthy man, in a sharp suit, anger flashing in his eyes. He began accusing the doctor of careless driving, but the doctor, instead of defending himself, calmly walked closer and asked, "Are you hurt?" The man blinked in shock, expecting rage, but, receiving concern, he stuttered that he was fine. The doctor nodded, relieved, and told him to be careful. The wealthy man stared, speechless, as the doctor returned to his scratched car and drove away. The encounter left a mark not on his car, but on the stranger's heart. The road into San Francisco shimmered under the fading sun as the doctor finally neared his destination. His car was scarred on every side, the shine of the morning. Journey long gone, but inside his chest, there was a quiet fire. He had learned more about humanity today than in years of routine practice. He thought about the family he had carried, the biker he had saved, and the wealthy man whose anger had melted into silence. The road had turned his proud new car into a vessel of sacrifice. Every dent was a story, and every scratch a reminder that compassion costs, but always gives back more than it takes. He reached his modest apartment. At night, exhausted yet strangely fulfilled, he parked the wounded car and walked upstairs, closing his eyes to rest. But destiny had not finished writing. When dawn broke, the sound of another engine rose outside his window. He stepped onto his balcony and saw a sleek luxury car gleaming in the light. A driver stepped out and handed him a note signed by the wealthy man from the highway. It said, "I saw in you what money cannot buy. You cared more for my life than for your own pride. I cannot erase the scratches on your car, but I can honor the kindness that left a mark on my soul. Please accept this gift, not as repayment, but as respect." The doctor walked down slowly, his mind reeling as he saw the keys handed to him. He touched the new car, but his eyes filled not with joy for the machine, but with humility for the lesson the journey had given him more than roads and miles. It had shown him that every act of compassion ripples back in ways unseen. He looked at his scratched old car and smiled because it had carried him through a day that would stay in his heart forever. The wealthy man drove away, leaving the doctor standing with tears and gratitude. And in that still moment, he realized that a journey is not measured by distance or time, but by the lives you touch and the kindness you leave behind.